readers, how are y'all doing today? We are going to talk a little bit about fiction today. But before we go into the 3 types of fiction, I wanted to give you some explain what the difference is between fiction and nonfiction, just so we can kind of review. Now, we talked a lot about this in 2nd grade. So fiction is not factual stories. They can be imagined. So here's your fiction. They can be imagined, but a lot of times they're based off of actual events. So think about the books that we've been reading. She's writing stories about her life, but there may be parts in it that aren't true, that could be subjective. And they can be from different points of view. Nonfiction are fact-based. They have to be incredibly true or nobody's going to read them. And they're generally just from an author's point of view. So your fiction books are most of the stories we've been reading lately. We've read some nonfiction, just not as many, but we are fixing to start reading nonfiction very soon. So the next slide is going to give you the 3 types of fiction books. We have fantasy, realistic fiction, and folktale. Now, there's more than just these 3, but these are the ones that we're going to concentrate on right now. So your fantasy books, do you remember Sophia's Masterpiece? It was a book about a spider, and she made things. We know that's not true. It can't happen. So the characteristics of realistic fiction, hold on. Sorry about that. So the characteristics of fantasy, we're talking about fantasy. The animals talk, animals act like people, and can have magic in the stories. So we've read, I think, maybe 2 fantasy books, The Lemon Moon and Sophia's Masterpiece. Because the Lemon Moon, the lemon tree magically grew back. So in fantasy, animals talk, animals act like people, and can have magic in the stories. The next one is realistic fiction. So we've read a lot of realistic fiction. The books that we've read this week are realistic fiction. In My Mama's Kitchen is a realistic fiction. So the characters and the settings and the problems could all happen in real life. We could all run into these problems in real life. Like in Thunder Cake. We could be scared of thunder, and then our parents or grandparents could help us to feel better about it. So that's realistic fiction. The main word to look at is real. Realistic fiction, right? The next one is folktale. Now, we didn't read this book in 3rd grade. We read this book in 2nd grade. Zomo. Remember Zomo the rabbit? So a lot of times in folktales, it's a pretend story that cannot happen in the real world. There's repetition, and sometimes the characters trick the other characters. So folktales generally tell a story or teach a lesson. All right? So there's 3 types that we're going to talk about, and I want y'all today in independent reading to find a book that's either fantasy, realistic fiction, or folktale. It can be your book or it can be on Epic. And I want you to tell me the title and if it's fantasy, realistic fiction, or folktale, and why you think it's that. So if you read a book and you think it's fantasy, tell me why you think it's fantasy. All right? So happy reading, guys. Bye.